Welcome, everybody, to episode 138 of the Seven Figures or Bust podcast, the number one podcast in the world for growing your insurance business. I'm Glenn Shelton. Christian is stuck in traffic right now, so he is not here with us quite yet. He will be jumping in when he gets to the office. We have a special guest joining us, and I couldn't be more excited, you guys. Doug Massi is one of the all-time greatest final expense producers that I've personally ever gotten a chance to work with, to talk to. If you followed me for several years, you may have even listened to a little interview that Doug and I did together many years ago, which you can actually still find on the Lead Heroes website, talking about some of his success and what he's gone through to get where he's at today. So without further ado, Doug, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Very cool. Yeah. Excited about this.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad you could join. And again, if you guys want to see more of Doug, check out his YouTube channel. What's the name of your YouTube channel so everyone can find you there after this show's over?
Douglas Massi.
Douglas Massi. Look at it. That's easy. That's an easy one. So, Doug, I got started in the life insurance side of the business, and I probably my peak production was maybe close to 150 to 200,000 on my own pen in a 12-month period. So, I'd say above average, depending on what average is, but nowhere near what I know you accomplished as a writing agent. And it always blew my mind when I would try to wrap my head around the sort of numbers you were able to produce. So, and I know it didn't happen overnight either as an agent. So maybe we go back to kind of the beginning, and you can kind of explain a little bit about your story, and that way our audience can get to know you a little bit, and then we can kind of figure out how did Doug figure out a way to write over, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it was over $500,000 in premium on your own pen.
Not quite, but close. But close.
Okay. Well, take me through it.
I was recruited into the insurance industry by a friend of mine who was a manager at a local Hartford agency. Recruited, sold their product, had struggles. No, don't kid yourself. When I first got into life insurance sales, I was horrible. I was so bad that I actually quit not even 2 months into it. Went back to my old industry, home improvement sales. And then it was like within a few months, the light kind of came on, and I said, you know what? That really might be something. Maybe I really need to revisit that. And yeah. I felt like, so when I went back to the same place with my tail between my legs, and my attitude was a lot different because I realized there really is huge potential, and I really didn't want to do what I was doing at the time. So when I went back to the Hartford agency, my mind was open to change, and the magic kind of happened. It wasn't easy. I struggled. I had a couple of key moments that were like those moments where everything changed. And It was kind of funny. From 1 week to the next, I was like one of the worst in the office to one of the best in the office at selling and doing what we did. So that's really how I started. And I did that for years. And this agency, the product we were selling, we lost the lead program. We lost the use of the product. And so the agency's trying to scatter to figure out what to do. Yeah. And well, within a few months, I'm basically out on my own trying to sell mortgage protection, which is what I sold for the Hartford, trying to do it as an independent agent and just struggling with that.
So let me stop you there for a second. So you went from 1 week, you're saying, you're one of the worst agents in the office, which I can relate to a lot of this because it takes time to figure it out. And to the next week, you're one of the best. And do you really attribute a lot of that to just having an open mindset to like, I need to come in and figure this out? Like what was the switch on that piece?
Okay. All right. This is good, guys. This is important. If you're going to take anything from today, hopefully this could be the game changer for you, because it really was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
The manager and the owner were telling me I'm leaving money on the table. They couldn't see me in the house, so we were selling face to face. So the assumption was that I was doing it wrong. I didn't have the right energy, and that I wasn't doing what I thought I was doing in the house. So they're like pushing to bring a recorder, because that's what it was. 16 years ago, you got one of those little pocket recorders.
Oh yeah.
From the drugstore, and they were telling me, bring it in the house. The client's going to be okay with it. I didn't want to do it, and I finally did it with this single lady with a new condominium, a new mortgage, with no life insurance and a child, and she did not buy from me. So here you've got the ideal scenario. You're
Right.
99% gonna sell if you know what you're doing. Buy from me.
Yeah.
She allowed me to record. I came out, got in a car. So a lot of the appointments back then were like an hour from the house. So this was a long drive back home from Miami, from South Miami. So I hit play, and it was, the presentations that I was making at the time were about an hour. It was a lot to it, very complex sales presentation. So the whole drive home, I'm listening to the recording, just going, that's not what I thought I sound like. That's not what I thought I said. That's the way I said it. There was no energy. I was monotone and just this guy doing this. And I had been selling a little bit. And I realized the fact that I sold anything was a miracle. And that was the game changer. I was like, holy cow, everything they're telling me in the office is 100% right. And it's all me. It's not the leads. It's not the training they're giving me, because they're giving me the great training. It's not the system. It's not the clients. Right. They're not tire kickers. How do I know they're not tire kickers? Because on my next appointment, everything changed. So one of the first things that I was able to do easily was change my energy, the monotone to the show. So what they told me was, look, you are so much better off overdoing it to where you can't overdo it. Put on a performance, use energy. And that's what I did. I said, well, man, I got nothing to lose, obviously, especially after I had this ideal scenario that I just could not close. I go to the next appointment and I put on the insurance show. And that's exactly what I did. I went in there with all this energy. I love this. Yeah, and I remember part of the way that the presentation went. First off, thank you so much for welcoming me into your home. As I mentioned before, my name is Doug Massi, and I am proud to tell you that I represent the greatest life insurance company in the world, The Hartford. And I did it just like that, like you're putting on a show, and they all freaked out and smiled, and that smile stayed throughout the presentation. And I'm not exaggerating. At that point, 8 out of 10 people handed me a check and signed on the dotted line. I went from 20% closing to 80% closing the next day, just from that energy, just from changing that. So yeah, huge.
This takes me back to a time when, I got started doing door-to-door sales, selling ADT home security systems. That was my first jump into the sales world. And I struggled a lot, especially that first few months. I really, really struggled. And I'll never forget, a trainer flies in from another city and he's like, hey, I'll go out with you. And I'm thinking, okay, let's see what he can do. And I'm almost kind of like waiting for him to fail, right? Like I'm almost thinking like, okay, I've struggled so much. Surely this guy, he's not going to have the type of success that people say he has, that he's almost bragging to me about. He gets in the house, the very first house we knock on, he's in, he sells it. And after that, he was like, I need to go help train someone else. And one of the things he mentioned is he said it's all about emotional transference. He's like, this entire sales game is emotional transference. You can transfer your energy, how you're feeling, to someone else. And that was something that it always stuck with me, because I'm like, man, that is so real. It's almost like connecting to your Wi-Fi. Like it's really that strong. Like I really do believe this. And I think what Doug just illustrated there in his presentation, like to go from zero to hero and doing it through having energy. Like people want to work with someone that makes them feel good, that makes them happy, that they're excited to talk to. So I love that. Okay. So now let's continue. So you figured, trying to figure out your next move. The agency lost the product. You're trying to figure out what's next. So continue.
Yeah. And so let me just say this, what you said, the energy, it really is contagious. Like you can't sit there falling asleep when someone's doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. All right. Lost the product. I'm trying to figure out what to do. They're telling me what to do when they don't know what to do. Went out on my own, tried to sell mortgage protection, tried to buy leads back then. So, to me nowadays, it's still an issue. Direct mail was the best lead back then, but you couldn't get them. The only way to get direct mail mortgage protection leads where I live was to get them through a company that actually you could get some, but you could only get like a handful a month. Right. I'm over here wanting 10, 15 every week. I'm wanting to work some mortgage protection leads. So couldn't do it. Final expense kept coming up. Went out, got some leads, got with the company, got some leads, went out and did it. Realized the market was different. I'm not dealing with nurses, people that are employed, that have families. I'm going into low income homes, seniors homes. So it was completely different. I didn't think I wanted to do it. I remember at first I was like, I don't know if this is what I wanted to do, but I realized the people need it. They need the help, and the leads are easy to generate. I was a lead guy at that point. I learned how to be the lead guy, right? Leads, give me leads, give me leads. Yeah. Easy to generate. The light came on. I'm like, yeah, there's a future. There's a future. And if I can figure out how to do this, I actually did want to build an agency, So at this point, I had been selling insurance for years, never had that type of opportunity to build. Well, started learning how to do it, got pretty good at it. And basically I kind of started like in March, my first year, 2013, I didn't sell it full time. I was still doing like a little mortgage protection, just trying to figure it out. By the end of 2013, I finally found the right appointment setter. I finally found a lead program. I did something, I'll give you the short version. I found this lead program that people didn't know about. I brought it to multiple insurance agencies. I said, hey, you guys should use this lead program. None of them believed me. None of them thought it was worth it. I found a guy to believe in me. It changed everything for his agency. It changed everything for me. But now I got these leads, these fixed cost direct mail leads. So I got the right lead program. I'm trying to find an appointment setter. I finally found someone who was capable of doing what I needed to do, help me book it. And then what I did was I started ramping up the leads, like getting a lot of leads. So
before you've got the appointment setter though, you're spending an incredible amount of time and energy, I'm assuming, doing your own appointments. And again, this was my number one hang up, right? It was my number one hang up is I'm looking at my work week as an agent, and I'm getting so frustrated that I'm spending almost half my week on the phone, right?
Bingo. And door knocking. So that's what so guys, when I first got into final expense, my upline, my IMO said, no, you don't call the leads, you door knock the leads. So I did that for months. And then can't remember what happened. And I said, let me just try calling the leads. So I tried to call the leads, and guess what? It worked. I got appointments. So it wasn't that big of a deal. Christian, welcome.
Yes. Mr. Brindle's made it to the podcast, everybody. Yeah, that it was kind of a light switch moment for me too, to be able to, again, offload this huge time suck, spend this much more time in the field. The other thing too that you probably were experiencing, I'm assuming, because again, I had a very similar trajectory of coming from mortgage protection, going independent, focusing on final expense, being able to work all hours of the day, right? Mortgage protection, you're kind of filling in around other people's scheduled nights, weekends. It can be really tough to run 10 appointments a day with mortgage protection. But all of a sudden with final expense, Mrs. Jones is at home. She's going to be at home 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., and I can see her anytime, right?
It was easy to book it up too. Once we had enough leads coming in every week and I had the appointment setter working hand in hand with me, the goal was to get 12 to 14 appointments per day. And I know that kind of sounds crazy and you're like, how do you do that? Well, remember, you're getting stood up by some people. And so even with 12 to 14 appointments per day, I still got in some door knocks. I still had a little time in between. But that was what changed everything. Once I had this system developed, I started sharing it with other people. And the next thing you know, it's kind of getting popular and so-and-so is doing the same thing. And this agent's doing the same thing. And the next thing you know, this agency owner's teaching his agents to do this thing. Meanwhile, before that, the attitude was door knock your leads. And once you're comfortable to call to set appointments, call to set appointments. And the attitude wasn't find someone to help you to work hand in hand. That doesn't really work. That was the attitude. So I kind of felt like I went against the grain, and that's what changed everything for me. Big time.
The forums back in the day, and again, Doug and I go way back to the old insurance forums days, which I still poke my head on there from time to time when some of you anonymous internet trolls are trying to slander me. I like to see what's being said. But yeah, that was definitely the mentality. I remember the mentality at the time was get direct mail, door knock direct mail. Like that was it. That was what was being taught. Christian, let me ask you something. When you hear 12 to 14 appointments per day, from an activity level perspective, what would you say that comparison is to like an average agent's activity?
Well, I think it's well above average, right? I think we can all agree with that. It's not even above average. It's like exceptional, right? It's fantastic in terms of an activity standpoint. And it's great. Doug hit it right on the head there, where it's like, you're going to get stood up on some appointments. Like Glenn, we've kind of taken the approach in some cases with appointments that, like, in some cases, if you have more appointments to book, like double book them. Right. Double book them and to make sure that you have as many sits, as many contacts, as many conversations as possible. Apologize, by the way, everyone, that I'm late for today's show. Crazy morning. What was supposed to be a 40-minute drive was an hour and 40-minute drive. And so craziness. Apologies for that. But I'm glad I made it before the end of the show.
There will be a penance on a future episode for this, but we'll get into that later. Okay, we don't need to spend any more time on that now. So Doug, would you say that was kind of the secret sauce then? Is like this crazy high activity level that was really the core of it?
It was, but the key was I'm spending around $1,800, $2,000 a week on leads over 10 years ago. So you put that $1,800 today, that's like $3,000 a week on leads. You do think about it, right?
It hurts to hear, but
reality.
Yes.
Using an appointment setter where we're tag teaming everybody. And guys, I didn't go out every day. I went out mainly 3 days a week and then 2 days. I would generally do a 3-day 1 week, 2-day the next. That was the only way I was able to do it. What I didn't mention was the areas that I were working were often 2 to 3 hours away. And there were times when I was staying in a hotel room. So, I'd work a full day and a half day and then drive back home. And it was a lot on me. It was a lot on your body. These days when I drove home were 12, 14-hour days. So, you can't do that day after day with the driving alone. And so it really was all about the activity, just like it is today. Just saying, it's all about the activity today. You want to sell insurance at a high level, you got to be very active. You've got to have a system in place that either gets you in front of the people or gets you on the phone with the people. And you can't be, if you're going to be independent, you can't be afraid to invest. You got to figure out a way to come up with the money to invest into your insurance business.
Those core principles.
Totally.
Sorry,
totally
Christian,
agree.
go ahead.
Yep.
Nope.
Oh,
sorry. I just was going to say,
your mic's lagging on you.
Let me add to that real quick. So
please do.
So 2014 was that first calendar year where, I figured out in 2013. Now I did it in 2014. Halfway through 2014, I started United Final Expense Services. And the thinking was, if I can just bring everything to the agents that I needed to be successful, then they'll be able to be successful. And that's basically what we've been doing ever since. And by the end of the year, I did place right around $425,000 of premium. That's me driving around in the car, just beating up the poor Volvo and just doing what we do, helping people out.
Yeah. What I love about this is, even though I might not recommend to an agent today to do it exactly that way, right? Like I might not be like, hey, you need to get in your car and drive in a 14-hour radius. The bottom line though is like all of the principles that Doug just shared, like all of those things are applicable today, 100%. High activity level, investing in marketing every single week, and a lot of money, right? Not just here's $100. Let's see how far it gets me. And being able to, again, he talked earlier about high energy, like there's these core principles that regardless of, you could go back 50, 60, 80 years in the insurance industry, these core principles are still the same today. And that's where you can really hit these high levels. And for some of you, yes, this is still the pathway to success. But even if you're choosing to do something like telesales, a lot of these principles are still the same. Christian, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, it's such a, a duplicatable, I should say, blueprint from the standpoint that even if you do make some adjustments for today, like you said, it's activity, it's high contact, right? Insurance is a contact sport. So the more meetings you can have, the more sales calls you can have, the more potential client interactions you can have, the better. And then, a little bit of that hustle muscle that people are trying to get away from today. I feel, I don't know if you both feel that way, but everyone's always trying to figure out, how do I work the least? How do I?
I'm gonna put my money in an altcoin and I'll be a billionaire by next week. Okay, I don't need to work a 14-hour day. That sounds horrible.
Elon said Dogecoin to the moon. Okay.
It's changed things back then. So I did this all final expense. I mean, year after year, at that point, I'm writing around $400K, all final expense. I tried to do Medicare and Medicare Advantage. I struggled with it. We didn't have the support that we have nowadays. So what I'm getting at is, what I did is still possible, but I feel like you can't just do it selling final expense. You've got to have the Medicare products. Thankfully, we got guys like what you guys are doing, and you have systems where you actually train the agents, you actually help them, you actually support them. I mean, when I tried to do Medicare back then, I was speaking with an upline in a different city that had no training, and it was just whatever conversations I could get her on the phone for help. That was the help I got. And that was it. And I never ended up doing it. I literally, kind of embarrassed to say, I literally started the process, couldn't even get through the AHIP. I was on my own island 2 years in a row. I did that I backed out 2 years in a row, and I started and didn't finish. And then was like, well, what am I doing? I'm not doing this nonsense. And of course, couple of years ago, things changed, and I figured out, oh yeah, maybe this is a good idea. Maybe just gotta. And I had help. I had help now, so it's different.
Absolutely, and no shame in that at all. And this is something I've talked about quite a bit on the show. Is as a new life health agent, and as I started to trend towards the senior space, the agency I was at kept telling me over and over, "There's no money in Medicare, Glenn. There's no money in Medicare." That was the thing that I was told over and over early on. And so it's one of those early things. It just kind of stuck. I really I stopped looking at it because I'm like, well, so-and-so and so-and-so, they've been doing this longer than me. And they told me there's no money to be made in Medicare. So why would I do this? So, it happens. That type of stuff happens.
Yeah. I think, with Medicare too, right? Like, that is such a, unfortunately, common type of experience that you had, Doug, that a lot of agents do have, even still today. There are more systems in place these days. There's better technology tools. There's more common support that's readily available for agents. But even still, there's situations where, an agent just doesn't get the support that they're needing. They're not getting kind of the training that they're needed to kind of get them up and running, and they just never get off the ground. And, we've seen it a lot over the years, and it's unfortunate because Medicare is such a, it's such a higher degree of complexity, right? Of how the product actually works, right? You have provider networks, you have, prescription drug formularies, you have a lot more compliance rules, you have scope of appointments and all of these different things.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, it really does require very intimate and in the weeds hand holding in a way when someone's first starting from the ground up. And I don't really know anybody that's been really successful at it that hasn't received that, because you don't know what you don't know. You have to learn it somehow.
100%.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. A question that I had for you, Doug, is on the life side, what do you feel like a new agent needs in terms of training and guidance and mentorship in comparison to be successful? And how does it differ from what do you think they might need on the Medicare side, just based on that experience you did have?
Okay. Well, it's kind of similar. I have what I call the three-legged stool. Okay. It's a term I heard. I did not create it. I got to give it. Can't remember the gentleman that said it, but I heard that term and I was like, it makes sense. So you need to have the training. You need to have the right products and commissions. And of course you need the system with the lead program, which is the whole platform. To me, that's really what you need for Medicare too. Mm-hmm. But back then, there was more training. So I feel like, with compliance, and of course, all that's only gotten harder over the years. What's going on with Medicare, it has not gotten easier over the past few years, especially since COVID. But I feel like the IMOs and the agencies have gotten a handle on the type of training. Like it's easier to figure out how to train an agent than maybe it was back then. And so with modern technology, especially, now we see back then, the typical, here, I'll give you an example. Typical insurance agency would maybe have a Zoom meeting, one meeting online once a week.
Right.
Now you got agencies that have them every day. So it's like we kind of realize, the training really is important.
Right.
This episode of the 7 Figures or Bust podcast is brought to you by my mini course, How to Find and Buy Books of Businesses. Guys, in 2024, Glenn and I, in our combined company, purchased and acquired through acquisition 900 clients. And over the years, we've purchased thousands of clients to grow our agency internally. And we've learned a thing or two over the years, right? There's certain things you need to look out for. You need to know how to value a book of business. You need to know how to transfer everything, what the expectations are in terms of the timeline. And you need to know how to put a deal together and structure it to protect yourself while still at the same time doing good business with people. Guys, this mini course is around 10 videos long. It's a quick and easy thing to get through. And it's a great way for you to grow your book of business in 2025. Whether you're finding an agent that is maybe been in the business for decades and they want to retire, and then maybe they don't have any kids to take over their business. Maybe you're looking at a situation with an agent that just hasn't been able to make it in the business and they're just looking to go off and try other things. Buying books of businesses can be a great way to quickly and rapidly grow your business fast. And we've unveiled all of the little tools and tricks that you need to know in this training. It's a one-time purchase for only $197. For that price, we're practically giving it away. Make sure to check it out now. Now back to the show.
Yeah, that's a great point. The agency that I got started, they had like a company-wide conference call, once a week for 30 minutes to an hour. It's like that was it. And then if you were really producing at a relative clip, you might get to go to an offsite training where like, hey, HQ at the time, it was like down in California. And and again, the mindset, when I look back at this now and I'm thinking, why would you not want all of your producers to go through like quality? Why would you only want like the top producers to be trained? They're already selling. Like, none of it makes any sense to me looking back. I'm like, you're not really giving any training. Then you're offering training only to the top producers as some type of like bonus or incentive. And like they talk about like doing role plays and stuff at the training. But yeah, I think accessibility is a big one. Obviously, and this is there's so many different directions I think we can go from here. But failure is so huge in this industry. And I think part of the reason why, Doug, you kind of turned the corner was you came in with that open mindset. You sounded like you were coachable. Recording your presentation, I can't tell you how many times when an agent's come to me and they're complaining about leads, etc. And I'm like, send me a call. I want to hear what you're saying. I want to hear what the appointment setting sounds like. I want to hear what the presentation sounds like because I'd say a lot of times it is what the agent's saying, just like what you experience.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Please do.
Trust me on this Pete, there are agents watching this recording right now that have been in the industry for years and years and years and have never heard their own presentation recording. I just called you guys out on it. You know what to do. Right. You want to get better?
That's right.
Do it. Because I know this as a fact. Years. You've been doing this for how many years and you haven't done it? Come on, guys. Step up.
I had that same experience. 100%. Yeah, 100%. Doug just called you guys out. Record yourself, send it to your upline, send it to a trainer, send it to a peer in the industry. Let them listen to you. Listen to it yourself.
You're going to
haven't listened to it yourself.
I promise you. If you've got an open mind, you're going to notice, and it's going to be hard. Had I not had that drive back home, I wouldn't have probably listened to the whole thing. I was kind of forced. I'm like, it's me and that's it.
The analogy that comes to mind for me is like, you want to be Kobe, but you don't want to watch film.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what comes to mind for me. Like everybody that's great in any type of field, they study the way they're doing things. They watch film, they listen to their sales calls. So it's one and the same, and it's how you find little intricacies and ways you can do things better. And it's how you reach a point where you can kind of perfect your craft. I totally agree. It was a huge thing for me as a salesperson, as an agent on the Medicare side, is, listening to my sales calls, listening to appointments I would do, presentations, and just looking for ways to make it better. If you guys are listening to this and you haven't done that, go back and listen to what Doug said again, because that is very true.
I had the same. So Doug mentioned earlier on the podcast how when he listened to himself, he had no idea. Like he was blown away that he sounded like. So I took a public speaking class in college. And part of that, this was before I got into sales, but part of that was you had to record yourself and then you had to watch it back. And I had that same moment watching myself speak publicly. I was like, I was like, whoa, I'm like, what is this? Like nails on a chalkboard type feeling. And I think it's important to have that feeling. I think it's important to have that feeling. There's a self-awareness that's lacking with a lot of agents, so I love that. I think that's a big one.
I was going to say, if I can, at that point, I mentioned that, it was a night and day change for me, but there was something else that happened where I went from at that same Hartford agent. I was one of the best agents, where I made this change, and then I was the number one agent from then on. Like, nobody could touch my numbers. So, and to me, that's something that it kind of happens inside. But what was happening was, I'm coming back from these presentations. I'm driving an hour that way or an hour. It was either, I lived right in the middle in Broward County. So I'm either an hour to West Palm. It seemed like all the leads were either West Palm or South Miami. So it's like all this driving. So I'm doing all this driving. I come back and I'm like, oh, all that driving and presentation. And I didn't, I wasn't able to close the sale. My manager kept saying, you're believing the nonsense. And he loved to say the word nonsense. I think that's where I picked it up. You're listening to the nonsense. You're believing the nonsense. What he meant by that was the old buyers are liars. Nobody sits there and goes, ooh, I can't wait for that life insurance agent to call me so I can buy some life insurance. I can't wait for that life insurance guy to come to our appointment today. So nobody thinks that way, guys. So it's up to us to make them appreciate the idea of having the insurance to protect their family. So what was happening with me, my boss, you're believing the nonsense. In other words, they'd get rid of me, and I was buying whatever the lie was. Insert excuse not to buy insurance. Whatever it was, I was believing it. Now, I was telling the boss, no, I'm not believing it. I know it was nonsense. I know it was an excuse. I just couldn't close them. No, Doug, you are believing it and you're buying, because when you go and you make that presentation, there's a sale in every single house. There's a sale in every single presentation, and you're either the one who's selling or the one who's buying. All right. So that's when I started to change. That was when this second change came in, and I said to myself, all right, I talked to the manager about it, not just myself, man. I was like, all right, my next appointment, I'm not leaving until they ask me to leave or they hand me the check. And I remember it. It was an afternoon. A lot of the appointments were in the evening. It was like a 5 o'clocker. I had to go through rush hour traffic back down to South Miami. Husband and wife and the baby in the other room. He's got a job. He's got some insurance through the job. And this is how it started. She said to me, he's not going to buy from you. Don't take it the wrong way. He never buys anything when he first meets somebody. That's how it started.
That's a killer.
So I'm like,
killer. Yeah, like
we've all heard that one before.
Why you gotta be like? I'm like, why you gotta be like that? I just changed my mindset, and now she's starting with that. So I'm like, come on, okay, which was fine. They started with the objection. I can't remember exactly what it was. I didn't stop. I kept going back to what's going to happen. And I did a little guilting. There was a little bit of guilting. There was something that I kind of created, and that was to draw the picture to him of me leaving the house without the insurance and his wife not being sure he really wanted the insurance. So this was a little mind, I started getting into NLP at this time. So this was my little, let's do a little mind thing. And I tried it. The first time I tried it was with them, and they bought it. And basically what I said was, listen, man, you and your wife, you got such a beautiful family. When I leave here, there's a good chance your wife's going to sit there and think, well, he didn't buy the insurance, because he's the decision maker. He didn't buy the insurance. So was that a show, or did he really want to buy the insurance? And I said it to him. I said, that's what your wife is going to think. And that helped. It really seemed to get a little bit easier. Next thing you know, he's standing up and walking around. He's messing with the kid. She was taking care of the baby. Now he's the one doing it. So I got him on the wheel. Yeah. I got him thinking. And I don't know, 20, 30 minutes later, I didn't stop. I just kept trying and kept trying and kept trying. And he goes, all right, yeah, you're right. Let's go ahead and do the second option or whichever option it was. And she goes, he never does that. I can't believe, she started with it again. I can't believe he did that. He never, ever does that. Right. And that was when that second change happened for me. That was when, okay, now I understand the importance. I'm over here buying it. I'm giving up on these people. How am I doing my job by not putting everything I got on the table, giving everything I got to help these people, fighting with them, arguing with them, even if it's against their will? Basically, that was my mindset. Sometimes you have to sell these people the insurance, even if it's against their will. And man, I got stories. Let me tell you, when I got some crazy stories of experiences once I changed, because I'm not getting up. I'm not leaving. I'm going nowhere.
Right. But again, like, so many agents are going to hit that first objection and they're out. They're done. Yeah. When most there's a huge, I could just kind of guess or, theorize on what the percentage is, but there's so many agents who, as soon as they heard that wife say, hey, he never buys, like, I don't know why you're here. Right. So many agents would be like, okay, well, see ya, or, hey, here's my card, and so many agents feel good about that one, right? Like,
they make a 5-minute presentation.
Call me. Call me.
Half-hearted thing.
They either leave.
No, they're going to call me next week. I can feel it.
Yeah, they're either going to leave or they're going to give a half-assed presentation. They're just like they're even if they go in and do the presentation, they're emotionally defeated from that moment on. They're just counting down the seconds till they're getting out of the house and getting onto the next one. And I think that's a real mindset shift that really does. I think you hit it right on the head, Doug. Will separate people from the ones that end up making a lot of production happen versus the ones that struggle and maybe don't make it in the business. Because that's a real thing. Like, we train our agents that, you can't, and the Medicare side as well, right? You can't let people bulldoze you. You just can't. You can't let them control the conversation. You can't let them, just push you down, and overcoming objections has become a bit of a lost art, I feel like. It's just, you don't see as much of it.
And it's kind of not that hard. If you have a system, I say that because, of course, there's only a certain percentage that it actually will work with. If you have like a system designed for overcoming objections, if you've read The Way of the Wolf, straight line selling, that's really what I was doing then before the book came out. And that's what I believe in now. That's what I teach my agents. You expect the objection. It's going to happen. Yep. And be prepared. Okay, Janet, I agree. Hey, I don't blame you. I'd want to think about it too. Let me give you something else to think about it. And then spend the next 10 minutes building value, going back to the presentation, building all this massive value in the product, the company, what they get, what happens, instead of what would happen if they don't have it. Remind them, one of the things we do with Final Expense, we remind them, hey, we don't need to take a payment today. We're going to set that up later based on when you receive your Social Security benefits. And then remind them of the need too. And by the way, I know, you did say in our presentation, what I teach my agents is we talk about the need. We get them to admit that there is a need and who the beneficiary is. So then I go back to the beneficiary and say, and I know that the last thing you want, as you said, is to leave your daughter with nothing. So can I make a suggestion? And then you reclose. And I'm a firm believer. I've seen this work. Sometimes the first loop doesn't work. But by the second, there's a certain percentage of people that are going to go, yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Yep.
They just need to feel more confident in you. They need to feel more like, okay, you really are a professional. I really can trust you. You really know about the products. That all, building all that value and getting them to like feel that and sense that you really do know your trade is
let me ask you something, Doug. And we talked about this on the show before too, is how important your own belief is in the product that you're selling, right? So, and this is where we're, Seven Figure Medicare Agent Facebook group, our audience, we have a big audience of Medicare agents, and we've done polling with our audience before, and this is kind of like about a third of our audience at the time when we polled. I don't think they really believed in the product of final expense. Like they genuinely, like we've seen comments before from agents that are like, this is a scam. We read, I think it was Reddit. I think we tore through a Reddit post actually on this podcast earlier.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
There were some Medicare agents that were like, final expense is a scam. You're scamming seniors out of their money. So like there is something, in my opinion, about like, do you believe in what you're selling? Because if you even have like a small amount of disbelief where you're not really, you don't think it's good value, I think you're going to get railroaded a lot by your prospects. But to do what Doug has done and what he just explained there, which was just gold. If you're looking for sales advice, I mean, just gold, what he just shared. If you have the pure belief that what you're selling benefits your prospect, that they are better off with what you are offering them, then you really can't lose when you're coming around. And again, you're trying, you're coming back around I loved that second or third closing attempt because there were so many times that people would come around, where it's like, no. Oh, well, okay. I didn't really think about it like that. Let's go ahead and get this application approved now. Whatever the next thing you're talking about. I always love to explain, like, listen, Mrs. Jones, I understand I just want you to understand this. If you have something come up in your health over the next 30 days from the time it takes for you to think about it and you want to reach back out to me, you might not qualify for this. Like, do you understand that? Like, you might be able to qualify and get this today, but a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, as soon as that's on your health history, it's done. I can't help you. No one can help you. Whatever it is, you're coming back around on that second, third attempt. And yeah, I do think I would guess 70% or more of agents, they hit that first roadblock. They're doing that half-ass presentation, or here's my card, Mrs. Jones, call me next week. And they're feeling good about themselves. And they're like, well, I did talk to somebody today at least. And it's like, well, yeah, but you didn't help them. And you didn't help yourself either.
The illusion of productivity.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And I agree with the whole belief, man. Belief is such a big part of it. Really, it's not that hard to believe in what you do if you're selling to the right market. So, I nowadays, if I'm speaking with, a gentleman who's got a wife and a baby and he's in his 30s, I'm not going to sell him final expense insurance, right? We're not doing that. We're going to look at a different product. We're going to look at, some type, maybe a term or universal life. And I know with the Medicare market, it's kind of, there's a similar thing, so, there's people that will tell you, Medicare Advantage is a scam. You are so much better just sticking with traditional Medicare and getting the supplement. Well, it depends on the person. I mean, sure. I've got final expense clients that can't afford that. They can't. They are better off taking the risk and having potential debt later, which they don't really get anyways. No one's really getting that. If you got nothing, how are they going to get anything from you? They're better off doing that, with a MAPD plan than they are with just a supplement. There's a lot of people that can't afford that, but then there's the opposite. Like, I know I'm not going to, when I turn 65, I'm not going to get a Medicare Advantage plan. I'm going to get a Medicare supplement because I can afford it. And the benefits make more sense for someone like me. I travel a lot. So I'll have access to every doctor anywhere I'm at. We're enjoying our life. We're traveling 8 times a year, so we're up to that at this point. So, I
want to grow up and be like you, Doug.
Yeah.
I want to grow up and be like you, Doug, one day.
I bet.
We're getting close to top of the hour, Doug. We want to respect your time. Usually what we do around this time of the show is we move into final thoughts, to kind of put a cap on the topics of the episode. Glenn, why don't we start with you and we move our way down?
Man, again, Doug, I really appreciate your time. I would love to have you on the show again, sometime soon. I think there's so much great sales advice that agents a lot of times aren't getting. A lot of the training we see, and we talk about this a lot of the training is compliance or product training. That's what's getting pushed a lot of the time, especially from the carriers, right? So we see that. And so what ends up happening is the actual sales training, what's almost, in my opinion, some of the most important pieces of making an agent successful or getting an agent from mediocre to really successful to the next level is some of that sales training advice. And I think there was so much gold that you shared. One thing I'll reiterate that Doug talked about was kind of that tripod of training, systems and spending money on marketing. So it's like that leads, systems, and training, like having those core principles can really take you to the next level. So those are my final thoughts. Mr. Brindle, final thoughts on today's episode.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic episode, Doug. Appreciate you taking the time to come on. I always love anytime we have someone on that we can have a genuine, real conversation about sales strategies and tactics, because I do feel like for a lot of agents, it's becoming a bit of a lost art. It's remarkable to me. One thing that I've kind of been a stickler about is there are so many agents that refuse to even acknowledge that they're salespeople. This is something that, like, I've died on that hill for years now in our Facebook group and things like that. And they're like, I understand, you might want to say, oh, I'm not a salesperson, I'm an educator. Whatever you want to call it, you're a salesperson. And you need to understand that sales is not a dirty word. Sales is articulating your point and positioning your point in a proper way to allow your customer to be helped with what you do. That's my definition of it. And if anybody hasn't read that book that Doug mentioned earlier, Way of the Wolf, that is one of my favorite all-time sales books. It might be the best sales book I've ever read.
Great book.
And it's terrific. And that straight line sales persuasion, kind of system is terrific. It's been a lot of kind of the foundation of what I've used to build our sales systems internally. So great book, highly recommend it. But yeah, we'll have to have you on it again soon, Doug, because it was a great conversation. Final thoughts, Doug, on this episode?
Yeah, and guys, thanks for inviting me. It kind of brought me back. It's nice to revisit, those early days. Guys, get uncomfortable. I know that doesn't sound great, but that's when we grow. We grow the most when we are uncomfortable. Do you think I wanted to walk into the house with that recorder? Obviously I did. And I fought it for weeks, probably a couple of months before I actually did it. Do you think I wanted to make a decision? Hey, I am not leaving the house until they kick me out or sign on the dotted line, and sticking with that. That was uncomfortable. When you do that in the beginning, it is uncomfortable. And like I said, I've got stories of some crazy things that happened that I'm not going to share now, another time, but
another time. Yeah.
The trick is to just do that. You have to push yourself. You guys, especially those of you, you're working with Glenn and Christian, man, they've got the 3-legged stool. They've got those things you need for Medicare. That's what Christian and I were talking about this the other day. Mm-hmm. And we are so lucky to have things the way they are today compared to where they were 10, even 15 years ago. Just crazy. Push yourself, force yourself to get uncomfortable, and do what you need to do to take care of your business.
Amen. Love that.
Love it.
Guys, appreciate you watching all the way to the end. Whether you watch this episode live or whether you took it in on a replay, regardless of what platform you might be digesting today's episode on, we certainly appreciate your support. Appreciate you watching all the way to the end. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, leave a 5-star review, whatever your platform of choice allows you to do to support the show. We certainly appreciate your support. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Here's to your massive success. Thanks, everybody.